All right, so it seems like a lot of you are interested in this idea of personal growth and especially this high agency mindset. So we're diving deep into the high agency mindset. An article by Nick Wignall published January 5th, 2025.
Oh yeah, great article.
Yeah, so think of this deep dive as like your cheat sheet for understanding agency, its impact on, your well-being and how to like actually cultivate a high agency mindset yourself.
It's a fascinating concept and, one that often gets overlooked in like traditional mental health conversations.
Totally, and he really shines a light on how important this idea of agency is.
For sure, for sure.
So before we get ahead of ourselves, what does agency actually mean?
Well, Wignall defines it as the belief in your ability to positively influence yourself and the world around you. And what's key is he really emphasizes agency as a mindset, not a personality trait.
That's huge because it means we're not stuck, right?
Exactly.
It's not like some people are just born high agency.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something we can work on.
Totally. It's valuable. It's adaptable.
And he uses some really relatable examples to like illustrate the difference between high and low agency in everyday life.
Right.
Like remember that scenario about being seated at a noisy table in a restaurant?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
And it reminded me of that situation you told me about that work meeting where you felt like you couldn't speak up. Looking back, do you think that was a low agency situation?
That's interesting. Now that I think about it, I was definitely operating from low agency. In that moment, I felt powerless.
And Wignall argues that someone with high agency in that same meeting would have taken a different approach, right?
For sure.
They would have assertively, asked to be heard
Exactly.
or, tried to change the meeting.
Yeah, they would have tapped into that belief in their ability to influence things instead of passively accepting it.
He also uses the example of getting feedback at work.
Right.
A low agency person might crumble,
Yeah, just dwell on it.
and a high agency person sees it as a chance to grow.
To learn and adapt.
So it's all about perspective. And then there's that classic example of writing a book.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Someone with low agency might come up with excuses to procrastinate,
Right, right.
and a high agency person just buckles down and does
They
it.
get it done.
So it's not just about having dreams, it's about believing you can make them happen.
Absolutely.
But why should we care so much about agency? How does it actually impact our emotions and well-being?
That's where it gets really interesting. Wignall argues that traditional mental health approaches often overlook the power of agency. He suggests that boosting your agency can positively influence so many aspects of your emotional health, from self-esteem to anxiety, even relationship satisfaction and procrastination.
Whoa. Okay, so we're talking about more than just feeling confident or motivated. This is a real impact on our mental health.
Yeah, it's huge.
But why are traditional approaches missing this?
Well, it's not that they're ignoring it. It's more that the focus is on managing symptoms and addressing past experiences, which is important.
Right.
But Wignall argues that by neglecting agency, we're missing out on this powerful tool for building resilience.
So treating the symptoms without addressing the root cause.
Exactly. Imagine you're feeling anxious. Traditional approaches might focus on relaxation techniques or coping mechanisms, which are valuable,
Yeah, for sure.
but they don't necessarily address the root of the anxiety.
Okay, so where does agency come in?
Wignall's point is that chronic anxiety often stems from a feeling of helplessness, a lack of control.
Interesting.
So by cultivating a high-agency mindset, you're basically tackling that anxiety at its core. You're replacing that feeling of helplessness with a belief in your ability to, influence your life.
So it's not about masking the anxiety, it's about empowering yourself to change the things that are causing it.
Exactly. And he applies this same logic to other areas too. For example, high agency can boost self-esteem by encouraging us to take actions that are aligned with our values.
So if I believe I can make positive changes, I'm more likely to actually do the things that make me feel good about myself.
Precisely. It creates this positive feedback loop. Action fuels self-belief, and self-belief fuels further action.
I like that. And speaking of action, let's talk about procrastination.
Oh, yeah.
Wignall suggests that procrastination is often less about laziness and more about a lack of clarity about our values.
It's not just poor time management. It's about not being clear on what matters.
It's like trying to drive without knowing where you're going.
And high-agency people tend to be more clear about their values because they're constantly experimenting and figuring out what resonates with them.
So it's about understanding the why behind your goals.
Exactly.
Okay, and he even applies this to relationships.
Right.
He suggests that low agency can lead to passive communication and a fear of assertiveness.
Which can ultimately damage relationships.
I've totally been there, avoiding expressing my needs because of fear of conflict.
And high-agency individuals are more likely to communicate authentically and set boundaries.
So recognizing that you deserve to have your needs met and being willing to speak up.
Precisely. And that leads to more genuine connections. Now, another area where he talks about agency is depression and the motivation energy cycle.
I haven't heard of that.
It's this catch-22 where depression involves a lack of motivation and energy, but you need energy to do things. It's like a car battery that needs a jump start.
That's a great analogy. So how does high agency help?
It allows you to act even when you don't feel like it. You're not waiting for motivation. You're choosing to take action based on your belief in your ability to create change.
Motivation follows action, right?
Exactly. It's about breaking free from inertia and taking control.
What stood out to you the most about agency?
That's a good question.
I think for me, it's how much power we have over our own well-being. It's easy to feel like our emotions are just happening to us, but Wignall makes me rethink that. It's like we're not just passengers, we can steer.
I love that analogy. And the best part is agency isn't this mysterious thing you either have or you don't. It's something we can cultivate.
Okay, so how do we actually build that high agency mindset? What specific steps can we take?
Well, he gives us 4 strategies to start implementing, and that's what we'll cover next time.
I can't wait to hear them. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. We know what agency is. We see its impact on, our well-being. So how do we actually build that high agency mindset? I mean, does Wignall give us like a roadmap or something?
He does. He gives us 4 really practical strategies that anyone can start using.
Okay, hit me with strategy number 1.
This first one is all about shifting our focus from consuming to creating our feeling. Wignall argues that, high-agency people are builders. They're always making and doing things.
I have to admit, my inner couch potato is a little intimidated.
But that's okay, because Wignall isn't saying we have to, give up Netflix and become master crafts people. It's more about a shift in mindset. Just try to create more than you consume.
So finding little ways to inject creation into our daily lives.
Exactly. Like, instead of passively watching the news, maybe you write a letter to the editor expressing your views. Instead of buying a loaf of bread, maybe you try biking one.
Okay, I see the connection to agency. It's about taking an active role.
Right? You're shaping your world even in small ways.
Love it. All right, what about strategy number 2?
This one's about assertive communication. Wignall breaks down the 4 communication styles, passive-aggressive, and assertive, and argues that assertive communication is key for building agency.
Okay, I've definitely heard of these communication styles, but I'm not always sure I can tell them apart.
Sure. So passive communication is all about avoiding conflict. Even if it means sacrificing your own needs. Aggressive communication is the opposite. It's about pushing others around to get what you want. Then there's passive-aggressive, which is like a sneaky way of expressing anger through things like sarcasm. And then there's assertive communication.
So it sounds like the first 3 involve some level of dishonesty, whereas assertive communication is about being direct.
Exactly. Assertive communication is about honestly expressing yourself while respecting the other person.
So finding that balance.
Right, between being a pushover and a bully.
Okay, so how does this tie back into agency?
Well, when you communicate assertively, you're taking ownership of your needs. You're not afraid to speak up for yourself.
It's about recognizing that you have a voice and your needs matter.
Exactly. And Wignall actually provides a visual called the assertiveness matrix to help illustrate these different styles.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out. But how do we actually become more assertive?
He recommends starting small, baby steps. He suggests a grid exercise where you brainstorm situations that require assertiveness and gradually work your way up.
I like that. All right, on to strategy number 3.
This one might be tougher for some. It's about who you spend your time with. Wignall says it's important to be around high-agency people.
Okay, but what about those of us who are introverts or who don't have a ton of control over their social circles?
Well, he acknowledges that you can't change your whole social life overnight, but even small changes can make a difference.
So being more intentional with who we surround ourselves with.
Exactly. He compares it to learning a new language. If you want to learn Portuguese, being around Portuguese speakers.
It's like osmosis.
Right. The more you're around high-agency people, the more you'll pick up their habits.
But what about people with limited social circles?
Well, you can surround yourself with high-agency people through books, podcasts, online communities, anything that exposes you to those mindsets.
So even just listening to this deep dive could help.
Exactly. And he even gives a simple exercise to help you identify high-agency people in your life. Make a list of people you admire and circle the ones with a high-agency mindset.
A treasure hunt for agency role models. Love it. Okay, I'm ready for strategy number 4. Okay, so we've talked about 3 of Wignall's strategies: creating more than we consume, being assertive with our communication, and surrounding ourselves with, high agency people. What's that 4th strategy?
This one really gets to the core of why agency is so powerful. It's all about getting clarity on your values. Agency is about influencing yourself and the world, but you need to know what you want to influence.
It's like having a compass, right? You need a sense of direction.
Exactly. Your values are like guiding principles. They help you make choices that are aligned with who you want to be.
But choosing values sounds so hard. How do we even know what our values are?
It can be tough. It often means you can't do everything you know. There are trade-offs. But he has this exercise where you use a values list. He has one in his free toolkit.
So we're not making up new values, just figuring out what already matters to us?
Right. Think of it as self-discovery. Exploring different values and seeing what feels right. And the key is to actually choose your top values. Like imagine you could only pick 3. What would they be?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one, but I can see how that forces you to prioritize.
Right. It makes it actionable.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I really get agency now.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, it's a journey. Building a high agency mindset takes time.
Before we go, do you have one of your thought-provoking questions for us?
I do think about the strategies we've discussed, creating more, being assertive, finding high agency people, and figuring out your values. Which one resonated with you the most? And what's one tiny step you can take this week to use it?
A great question. It reminds us that this isn't just about learning, it's about doing.
Well, it's been great diving deep into agency with you.
If you're interested in learning more, be sure to check out Nick Wignall's full article.
And until next time, keep on exploring, keep growing, and keep writing your own story.
See you in the next deep dive.